Welcome to this edition of Insider Secrets, the weekly podcast that turns real estate investing goals into reality. Each show, we interview guests who are seasoned real estate professionals, actively closing and managing real estate deals. Mike is the founder of My Core Intentions and would like to help you make your real estate investing dreams a reality. Mike coaches you to buy investment real estate, creating short-term cash flow and long-term wealth. Your host and real estate coach, Mike Morawski, has more than 30 years of real estate investing and property management experience. Here's your host, Mike.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Mike, your host of Insider Secrets, and I am joined today by a special guest, Candyce Henderson. Hey, Candyce, why don't you tell people what we're going to talk about on today's episode?
Hi, Mike. I'd love to. We're going to speak about investing in commercial real estate and relationships, and I'm very excited.
Awesome. Candyce, it's a pleasure. Hey, you're going to have to listen inside in order to get the full show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It is Mike, your host of Insider Secrets, and we are with you today with another episode. I'm glad that you're here today. Hey, I talk to you every week about what are your intentions, and we've been doing this for a while now, and have you had the chance to think that through? Do you really know what your intentions are? And I always ask because do you get up in the morning and do you think it through? What's empowering you? What are you looking to do with your real estate business, with your multifamily business? The one thing that I always teach people is how do we create more long-term wealth and short-term cash flow? How do we create cash flow to get you out of the rat race? You know what? Today I am super excited. Actually, I've been trying to get this guest on our show for a while. I am going to introduce Candyce Henderson. Hey, Candyce, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Great. Candyce and I met on Clubhouse several months ago, and we wound up finding out, just to show you how small of a world it is, we wound up finding out that we went to the same high school, not around the same time, but we went to the same high school. And we've just laughed about that and laughed about some history in our own lives in that. So I'm real excited about what's going to transpire on today's show. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what you've been learning and how you've been growing. We're going to dig in. I'm going to introduce Candyce right now, and we'll get started. Candyce, one question that I always like to ask my guests is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
One word. I have to say, first thing that comes to mind is love. I like to do everything with love. Put everyone else first and with no expectations, and they will come to you. So that's the one word.
So that's super interesting. And I'll tell you why. This is my 99th episode, and you're the first person that's ever used that word on the episode as the word that describes them. Hats off to you. I think that's really cool. So
Thank you.
Why don't you give some background about yourself? Talk about how you got into the crazy world of real estate and selling real estate and multifamily. And I know you're doing some deals, but why don't you give some...
I'd love to. Yeah, the majority of my friends when I was in my 20s, they built Atlanta. They have since passed away, unfortunately. I was around those individuals when they were building Atlanta. They were skyscrapers and everything else. And I saw how they were generating money, how they enjoyed what they did. And I wanted to be involved. I didn't know at the time that would be what I would end up doing. But later in life, after I had my children, I wanted to be at home with my kids. I thought, let me start doing real estate. So I started with residential, as most do. And I have a team here that does residential, but I like the commercial end of things. I prefer that over residential. I don't like the emotions. The numbers don't work, then we move on to the next one. But so I started doing commercial and I fell into that and never looked back. So I love it.
That's pretty cool. That I like what you said about it. You keep your emotions out of it. I always say in the real estate space, in the commercial space, multifamily, wherever we're at, it has to be math over emotions.
Absolutely.
And I think on the residential side, there's so many people emotionally involved. Let's talk about your residential team a little bit. I don't know that I knew that.
Yeah, we have 16 agents now. They're phenomenal. Like I said, they help each other quite a bit. We've got an intern that just does signs and puts signs out and stuff like that. But they work very well together and they help each other out. We've got a team that just, if they will take over, someone needs a vacation or someone needs help with a transaction, they're all there for each other, which is the best part of our team. But like you said, back to that emotional part, I like them dealing with that because to me, I don't want the roller coaster ride. If the numbers don't work, they
Yeah.
don't work. And everyone seems to be happy at the end. But yeah, they're great. They're a wonderful team, and they've always worked, and we keep growing too. So I think I want to pump the brakes a little bit, but I'll let them just make that decision.
Yeah. Interesting. What part of that do you play? How big of a role in that team do you play?
You know what? I let them know we're partners. I just oversee to make sure that they're doing the right thing by the law. I look at the contracts and make sure the contracts are written properly. And if they need anything, they can call me. I'm always here. I want to make sure we're always following the rules and the regulations. And that's about it. Pretty much suffice by themselves. And they have each other. But I'm always here if they have any questions or need anything. I'm a phone call away. It could be anytime. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. If they need something, I'm here. If something pops in their head, I say, just call me. If I don't answer, then text me. And the minute I wake up, I got it for you. So that's how we help each other out.
They call you in the middle of the night?
You know what? No, but each person's different, right? So you learn some people like to text, some like to call, and you learn people's patterns. So I kind of know which ones need more handhold than others,
Yeah.
and which is not a problem, but you learn that over time, right? So they'll text me. They always text me first. I don't mind if they call, but if I'm asleep, I won't answer. But if they text me, then I'll get it when I wake up. But I don't want them to forget the question. So I always say, text it. Don't think I want them to always know that I'm here. So I
Right.
don't want them to think they can't ask me.
Yeah. I remember when I was on the residential side and building a team, and it's always interesting with all the different personalities and the people
Yes.
around. And then you take the sellers and buyers. And
Oh, yeah.
today's market is a lot different than it was then, because the market is still extremely hot in the residential sector, isn't it?
Extremely. We're still seeing, let's see, the last one that they had, the most recent, there was, I want to say 12 offers on it. We were dealing with over 20 offers or 30 offers.
Mm.
Now it's gone down to about 12. I do see a slowdown, especially in the higher end market. That slowed down completely. But in the $400,000 range to $600,000 range, it's and below, I'm sorry, about 500 and below in this area, it's still on fire. Yeah.
That's interesting that you said you've seen that slow down now. So,
The high end, like in the $1 million houses.
so where do you think the market, and I hate to really like timestamp these at all, but where do you see, we've been doing this a long time, you and I, and where do you see the market headed?
I'll have an interesting perspective on this. I believe that we might be at the new norm unless we have something catastrophic. No one knows, we didn't see '08 coming. Some people did. They might have had the indicators. We might be at a new norm. I think once we get building, the builders start building more, they get supply chains handled. That will help bring it so that we're more at a message demand. Okay, people building and building. We have supply chain issues right now, so the builders can't build quickly. But I don't see prices falling down like they did in '08. I don't see that. I see them leveling out and staying steady, but I don't see them going downhill, dropping the way they did.
Yeah, I certainly don't see what happened in '08 happening again. I don't think some of the fundamentals are there. I do see a correction coming though. When we look around right now, we see interest rates going up. Gas prices on the West Coast at $7 a gallon, here in the Midwest at $5 a gallon. How much is gas by you?
It was almost 5. I kept thinking it was going to go to 5. It's about 4.50 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, and bread's more expensive, milk's more
Everything.
expensive. What's interesting is earlier this year, lumber prices went so high, then they came back down, and now they're saying they're going back up again. With all that happening, you have this inflationary issue that's going on. The best way to offset that is to create cash flow for people in high rent growth real estate. I know you spent some time on the commercial side. Do you have a favorite asset class?
I've always liked industrial. I love it because I think that like supply chains, once they get fixed and we have everyone ordering online, I like industrial just because everyone loves multifamily. I think multifamily is saturated though. Everybody is chasing the same thing. When they pivot, I want to go the other way. I like industrial just because you have the long leases, you have no HOA, and there are people we're going that direction with Amazon and everybody else that everyone's ordering online more. They need the warehouses. So I just like that market. I enjoy it. I think it's steady. I think it's stable. That and storage units, of course, but That's flooded too a little bit. So
Well, and I always thought storage units were somewhere to be, right? And industrial, because you don't have the tenants like you typically have in multifamily. You know me though, I love multifamily.
I
So
know, I know. That's good.
that's where I left residential and cut my teeth in that. So what are you working on these days? Because I know that you're working on a deal.
I've got a couple. I've got a commercial piece of property in Texas that we will probably put an offer in the morning. I'm doing that with a group of people. It's some of them, actually, most of them are new investors. Another individual that runs the group, he runs it. He's phenomenal and taking the lead on it. And it's a friend of mine that's selling it. So it's off market. So no one knows about it. So I said, let's put this together. And we presented it tonight to them and they all loved it. I'm going to call the tax assessor tomorrow and make sure that the taxes work out and fully leased. So that'll be good. And we'll take that down tomorrow, hopefully. And then I've also got a bigger project that I'm more excited about. That is a development, my first development project. So I've got 620 acres in Texas that I want to take down.
Wow. So that's a little ways from home though, right? And
Yeah.
what will you be building on 620 acres?
It's 70 acres of commercial and the rest is residential, but it lays next to a highway. So I'll bring a experienced developer in and I've got someone in mind. He does really big, deals like that. So I'll let him take the lead on the commercial part and then I'll bring somebody else that could come in to do the residential part.
So do you find it difficult to put deals like that together yourself?
No, not really, because there's like not that many components. As long as you find the right people, you're good. That's how I've always led. Just find the best person, and the best person people will talk about that best person, right? They'll say, oh, this guy's the best. I try to bring the best in the business to whatever project I'm doing, no matter what, whether it's fixing the house, whether it's a builder, a developer, no matter what it is, I want the best.
And so is that because of relationships you have built over time that you know people, or do you actively go out and seek people that you need?
A little bit of both. People that I know, and I go back to the same thoughts too, and that is if you treat people the right way, it comes back to you. I've been lucky, also a little bit of luck there too, but some people you just kind of know. And when the same person is talking, I'll fly in for all these things in Texas. I don't care if it's in Wyoming, wherever there's a situation that we can do something that's going to be good for everyone, I'll fly in. It doesn't have to be here in Georgia, but you always will hear about that same person's name. And I sit back and watch and see how they perform, how they do something, just a double, triple check to make sure that they're on point. They do what they say they're going to do. Yeah. And they've got great reviews. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah. I'll get a combination of people that I know tell me, and then I'll do further investigation after that.
What's interesting is this is such a relationship business. And a lot of times I think that like you and I, we had this relationship that kind of just sparked, but I think it's because we both came from the same place, which is, hey, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
And there's so many people I think that don't do that. I had somebody say to me one time, when I connect with a ton of people on LinkedIn and I try to connect with as many people as I can just to build that network, that circle of influence. And I've had people say, one of the questions I always ask is, hey, what can I do to enhance your network? Or what can I do to add value to your world? And I've had people say, man, nobody ever asks that question. And I know that's something you ask all the time.
I think that's why you and I felt so comfortable with you. And I'll tell you, if you want to sleep good at night, I don't know who taught me this. Like, I wish I could give them credit, but I don't know who it was. If you want to sleep well at night, who you pick is the most important component. You could trust them, their heart's in the right place. Because there's a lot of things that go down, the situations that happen during a transaction where there could be money exchange and there's just all kinds of different things that could happen. And you want to make sure that when you're dealing with that one person or that group of people, they have that same belief that you do, and it will overflow in whatever you do. So I just live by that, and it's never done me wrong yet. So I'll knock on some wood, but I just live by that. So
yeah. And I think that's great. And that's what attracts people to people, right? You tend to get repelled by somebody who doesn't behave that way or have that mindset, the same ethical and moral standards. And you just can tell that. Hey, let me ask you this. What was a defining moment in your life in the real estate business? Something that you realized, oh my God.
I'm trying to think, probably when I closed on one of my first transactions. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, one of my first. I had been dealing with residential for a while, and then I had the first gentleman call me, and it was an investor. I switched from the residential to the commercial because
Okay.
you never know if you can do something, right? And you've been doing something for so long, and people will try to scare you and say, "Oh, a different world, different animal. Don't get involved." Well, don't tell me that, because if you tell me that, I'm going to jump in both feet. And there was a gentleman here, actually right where I live, not far from where I live, and I don't know how he got my number this day, but he called and he said, "I want you to go get this property for me." And I didn't know at the time he was testing me on a little one to see how I did. So then I could go buy bigger properties for him. And I couldn't write it down fast enough and was ready to go get it. And we did. And we got that one for him. And then it just kept it. Now we do multi-million-dollar deals, but it was a little bitty house. It was an investment property,
Yeah.
but he was just testing me. And he told me that later. So that I remember sitting at the closing table and just, because I knew that he had done bigger deals. I knew that he was of a statue that I would like to have as a client and like to help. And I just didn't want to make any mistakes at the closing table. So that
Yeah.
was it.
Right.
That was
Right.
probably defining. The light bulb went off, and I did it, and I never looked back. And that was it.
Yeah. We have those moments in our life where you realize, and I like what you said, you think he was testing you. I think that we have those tests along the way, right? Where people check us out. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. I want to talk real quick about raising capital. Um,
Sure.
I'm sure if you're putting deals together, you have to be raising capital. What's that like in today's environment?
I'm of one that I learned from somebody that does it a certain way. And I really like how she does it. She's always raising capital. She has a fund. So instead of waiting for the deal to come along and get going and getting the capital, then I feel it's better to have the fund ready and always raising capital, putting the money in that fund, and then dispersing it once you find a deal that needs it. So I like that better. It's the same thing as always. You're still asking for money. It's still the same way. You got to make sure the returns are good. But I like that way of doing it better, where you're putting it in that fund.
I think we're always asking, right? We always have to be in that relationship. And this goes back to real estate. I think so many people don't know what people do. Like we could walk into a room in a party and just assume everybody knows that we're in real estate and that's what we do. And really, you start talking to people and you realize that they don't know. So unless we're asking, we always have to be asking. So
Yeah, I like to be describing. What I like is to describe what I'm working on and the returns, and then they get interested that way. I prefer it like that. Oh, really? Okay, give me a call tomorrow. Let me know about that. Okay, sure.
what kind of returns are your investors looking at today? What do they want to see?
We've got any range from 10 to 20%. That's what I like to give them. 6% is not going to do it. It's not going to do it.
So are you talking about total return or are you talking about cash distributions?
Yeah, cash on cash distribution. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the asset. It's a value add, then you could do that. You have that room, but it's getting tighter because the rents have been so inflated.
Right.
Okay. So we're starting to pivot away from that value add component because the rents are increasing now, but the material costs are going up as well. So you have to do all those numbers. And right now they're fine. But if the rents were to not stay that level, then we can't get that return, obviously.
And I think we're starting to see a little bit of a shift. And here's something that's interesting that's been happening is I'll go and I'll download an OM that could probably get 30, 40 deals a week across my desk. They're not all worth looking at, but the ones that I do download to send to my analyst, I'll pull them up. The brokers are calling after you sign the CA, which they weren't 6 months ago, they weren't calling. And now they're calling often. So I think some things might be changing a little bit. Here's what I'd like to see a back off on. And that's for a while, they're trying to sell these deals at a year 2 and year 3 pro forma numbers. And I can't see that, but a lot of people are buying them at that. But I can't see doing all that work to get to year 2 and be at 0 and then have to start all over again. So it's interesting. And I think we're going to see some changes.
I agree. I'm seeing shifts too. I'm feeling the same. It's almost like you could feel it without even seeing it yet. I try to stay plugged in with all levels of it. I'm actually even seeing, I had a first person call me and tell me that even in Texas, the builders have reduced the prices a little bit, but they'll say you have to sign on dotted line by this. So they'll increase it and they'll increase it and then decrease it. So you only make out about 5,000 when you're a purchaser on the new construction. But for them to be doing that is another indicator, like you said, with the brokers calling us now. I see things shifting too.
Yeah. So how do you deal with work-life balance? And knowing what I know about you in a little bit of time, and you have a couple of daughters, and how do you deal with work-life balance?
You have to just do it. I've got twin girls and they are 15. So you can imagine cheerleading, golf, they're in different activities. It's a struggle. You just figure it out. The times they're at school, you work in between their school schedules, their after school schedules and stuff like that. You do it little by little and you work it out and call people to help when you can.
Any daily disciplines that you subscribe to for yourself?
I think my relationship with God is the most important that helped me get through everything. I have a very close relationship with him and I give him my worries and let him guide me as much as possible. I try to eat very healthy as well. I'm not complete vegetarian, but don't eat a lot of red meat at all. I eat very healthy and I do have some walks here and there that I take, but my relationship with him is exactly what's got me through everything. And always to feel like I'm protected to make sure I make the right decisions. So that's my biggest discipline is what he gives me on a daily basis.
I'm glad that you brought that up because you know what? I think it's important in life today. And I don't know if it's because you get a little bit more wisdom the more years you put on, right? What about high stress? Real estate can be very stressful. We can be at our clients' demands, whether they're buyers, sellers, investors we're dealing with, private equity investors. When you deal with stress, how do you make high stake decisions?
I'll tell you, I deal with things a little bit differently than most people. Well, I didn't learn very early on, but the light bulb went off eventually. And I realized that you can't allow people to treat you a certain way, especially in this business, and they will think they can. Out of the gate, I don't tolerate anybody telling me. I know where my heart is. I know where my goals are. I know what I'm doing for those clients and those investment groups and anybody that needs anything. I know what my standard is. So they're not going to be telling me, pushing me around or this or that because I won't work for them. That's just the simple matter. I won't allow that stress. If there's other stress from the other side, then you just handle it. If they need something, you handle that, this and that. But as far as my client and as far as my group that I'm trying to find something for, whether it be multifamily and I'm very honest and truthful with them. If you're looking for something that doesn't exist, I would say, that cap rate doesn't exist. You can go to another realtor and another broker. They'll tell you that it does. They want your business. They can lie to you and you go through the dance and this and that. And they know that. I think they appreciate that because I just won't tolerate that. I'm going to be very honest with them, transparent with them. And that's just why I do business. I don't allow them to stress me out ever. It won't come from it only usually comes from the other side. It doesn't usually come from my end because I'll let the client know too. If they're being too pushy about me wanting to reach out to the other side or something else, I'll say, we're going to get 5 questions. You're going to tell me the most important 5 questions, not 20. And we're going to do it that way. So I don't allow it on my end. It may come from the other side, but you can manage that too. So you've been doing this long enough.
I always like to ask that question because so many people have different answers how they deal with it. And some people are really rigid and they think things through and some people just let it roll off.
I think if you set the standard in the beginning, that's most important. You have to set it right off the get-go. If you don't, there are individuals that they will drain you and you will have nothing left. So if you set those standards in the beginning, they know their parameters and they stay within that.
That's what I always say about the property management business is when you're working with a tenant, you have to teach your tenant from that first encounter with them. Hey, you know what? You're in my school now. Otherwise, they will try to overtake you. So
always.
It's really important that you set those standards or boundaries up front. So good point. Technology. What do you like about technology? Your 2 or 3 favorite platforms that you like to use today?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I need all the help I can get with that. So my assistant's my best technology. I mean, I like CoStar. I've got CoStar. I still like CoStar. You're asking me that question? Is that what you want to know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like CoStar a lot. There's one that I just found out about and I can't remember it. It's for finding out the rents. It's a little higher end and it'll come to me in a minute, but I am not tech savvy in the least bit. I've got someone that helps me tremendously, that helps me with everything, my contracts and everything. They do that, but I still like CoStar. I mean, not everyone has access to it. And I think that you find out all the information you need to find out on there. So I love CoStar.
Yeah, it's a pretty robust system, that's for sure. I thought you were going to say like Instagram or something like that.
Oh, no, I don't. I'll tell you, it's interesting. I've got a social media person that I'm about to hire because I've watched, like I said, I watch from a distance to see who's the best, who I think is the
Yeah.
best. But yeah, she's really good. And I could use that help in that area because I've never marketed. I've never had to market. I've got the groups I've gotten and they've told their friends and I've never had to market. But I think I would do better if I did. My girls on residential, my girls and guys on residential, they do market, but I don't market. I'm lacking in that area. So thank you for asking me that, reminding me of what I need to do.
Are you going to hire Chantel?
I looked at Chantel. I'm looking at her too. Do you have
Yeah.
her?
I don't. She was in that room tonight on
Mhm.
Clubhouse that we're on, and she's around a lot. I really like her a lot. I have an assistant that is doing some things,
Yeah, there's a
helping out.
girl named Heather Cox that Vina uses. I like Vina a lot. Whatever
Okay.
Vina does, I follow Vina's lead. But yeah, when she mentioned that this evening, I was thinking I'd find out and see what she's done and how well she's done it. So yeah, one of them will definitely be helpful to me.
Good, good. Hey, do you see any pitfalls in the marketplace today that people need to watch out for?
I just think overpaying too much. I know you have to pay a lot to get in, but I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on overpaying. If you've got property and you're already making money, I think just let's slow down a little bit. Let's wait and see what happens, especially with the war going on, other things happening in the market. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But we're seeing indicators already changing. I like to run the numbers and run them conservatively and go back to the basics sometimes so you don't get caught in the trap.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question here that just may be a little abstract, but as a woman entrepreneur running a business and running life, what's that like in today's world?
It's busy. It's all really busy. I've never been one though to let me being a woman get in my way. I have people said to me when I first got in commercial, they said, "Oh, this is a man's world." That's okay. I like that, but I'm a different breed. I don't have a problem with that. I like it more because I feel like I'm doing something that someone else can't do. So I appreciate the challenge at
Yeah.
it. But in a woman's world, that man to woman is changing. I think it's more
Yeah.
acceptable now. And I love that. Like I said before, I go back to the same thing. But if you keep that same component of just knowing who you're doing business with, okay, you'll be 100% fine. That is to me, I'll have to say, more important than the deal itself.
Yeah.
You could have the best deal in the world and you're with the wrong partner and they could take advantage of the situation and it won't work out for you.
Well,
Yeah.
in my opinion today is, and I think it's kind of what you said, that people think it's a man's world. I
Yeah.
think that's BS, to be honest
It's
with you. 'Cause
hard.
I don't believe that because
Yeah.
I think some of the hardest working people in the world are single moms.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just been proven over and over again. So I have a lot of respect for you and for that demographic of women because it's not an easy job. And I get that.
Yeah, if you raise children by yourself, then you can do anything. So that's good. But thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate that.
Oh, you bet. You bet. Hey, so this show is called Insider Secrets, right? And I cater to a lot of brand new investors, newer people.
Okay.
As a new investor coming in the marketplace today, what advice would you give someone? And you already said to be cautious in the market,
Yeah.
not overpay. So we have to go
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Besides I have to say, make sure that you have a great agent. The numbers have to work. It's the basics. Know your numbers. I had a group of people, what they did was wonderful. They would just go out separately. There's a group of them, maybe 7 of them, and they would go find property. They would analyze the numbers, then they would come back together. They would compare the notes. And they did that over and over, and they discussed why they had different numbers at certain times. And then they got so good at it that they could analyze anything. And then we're always on point. So I would say if you're brand new, maybe do that. Maybe either have somebody that's so experienced so you don't mess up on the numbers, or get with a group and you guys just pick a random property and analyze it separately. Come back. I thought that was so good because you had all 7 different minds looking at different things that could happen. What's wrong here? What's wrong there? So I love that idea. But yeah, just definitely know your numbers. And if you don't have the group, get with someone that has done it and that's experienced in that field and in that part of real estate. There's so many different variables in real estate. So make sure that if they're telling you about multifamily, they better own a lot of multifamily.
And I like what you're saying because I talk about underwriting a lot. And I really think that before people get let loose on a tool or some kind of spreadsheet that they really need to underwrite a couple of deals by hand. That's where I really early on, I came from the residential side, went in the multifamily side, and early on I underwrote my first 2 deals by hand because I didn't know any better. But it causes you to have to think it through to
Yeah.
what if, and I'm the what if guy. What if this happens? What if this happens? But listen, it's been great. I want to change it up a little bit, ask a few fun questions, get to
Sure.
know you a little bit more. On a lighter note, what's your favorite tourist attraction?
Oh, that's a great question. Like favorite place to go visit?
Yeah, maybe best place you've ever seen. I know you've been around a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say it's between Australia and Singapore. One of those two. I think Australia because it's such a unique, different place and it's by itself and it has different animals that we can't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
And just the environment and the people are very fun and jovial.
Anything
Yeah.
specific there or just the country?
I'll tell you what was interesting. If you go to Sydney, you can walk on the Sydney Bridge on top
Okay.
of there. You can actually can walk on top of it. And that was just fascinating. I never knew that, so I went there. So I love doing that. Yeah, it was just amazing. I never would have thought you could do that there. So I was amazed
Very
that we
cool.
were able to do that. So I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
How about favorite restaurant?
Ooh, favorite restaurant. There's one here. I want to say the Optimist. It's a very nice restaurant. It's been a very good restaurant for and it's kept its goodness the whole time. It hasn't lost its flair in all these years. And
Nice.
it's very high end, but it's good. And the chef changes up all the time. So I like that one. Optimist in Atlanta.
Good.
Mhm.
Best book you've ever read?
Oh goodness. The one by Warren Buffett. I can't remember. What's his famous book that he wrote? Is it Warren Buffett? I can't remember what it's called. It's okay though. I can see the book and it was the one that he said, I'm sorry, he didn't write it. It's the one that he recommends. It's the one that he read. And he said, when I read it, the light bulb went off. No one had written a book the way that this person had described on how to analyze things. And you can use it with other business practices as well, not just stocks and things that he does. It was looking at the longevity of everything. It'll come back to me. I'll let you know what that one is. But yeah, that was a very good read. Yeah.
Cool. Candyce, this has been fun. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk about Atlanta real estate or something commercial that you're doing?
Sure. They can call me directly. My number is 404-431-5522. They can reach out at my email at candicecommercial@gmail.com.
Hey,
And Candice is with a Y. It's spelled CANDYCE and then commercial@gmail.com.
cool. I always thought that was unique. Candyce,
Yeah.
thanks. This has been great. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here this week. Remember, we'll be back next week with episode 100. So make sure you listen in because you're in for a big show. Candyce, I'll talk to you in a minute. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for joining us for another great episode of Insider Secrets. As always, Insider Secrets is brought to you by My Core Intentions. Wherever you hang out on social media, you will find Mike and My Core Intentions. Please and follow us to get the most up-to-date real estate investing trends. Visit mycoreintentions.com, where you can get expert coaching on all things real estate investing and property management. If you're looking to become an expert, Mike's coaching will help you scale your real estate investment business. We're looking forward to having you back again next week for more Insider Secrets.